Poshmark, what are you doing? Recently, I was in the middle of doing a Posh show and someone had popped on, was watching it for a little bit, and then was like, man, I wish I could do Posh shows. It'd be so nice to be able to liquidate some of the inventory that I have on hand. How do you get access to it? And I started to go through the process of like, go to Google, go look up Posh shows, get on their list. It might take 4 weeks. And someone piped in that was in my show and was like, or you could go just check on the app right now and see if maybe you have access. I'm sorry, what? Why would someone just have access if they haven't gone through the training? Poshmark. So, come to find out, this was probably like a week and a half or so ago at this point. Come to find out, there are a couple people that have been in my shows that just recently got access to Posh shows without ever even getting notified or even going through the training. And then I actually saw a post today on Instagram. I'm going to show it and I'm going to read it to you guys. I don't know if I will disclose the name yet. I got to get confirmation if she's willing to allow me to share it. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about what she said in her post. It reads, y'all getting wild with these Posh shows. And in the caption, it says, in the last week, I have seen in a Posh show, someone brushing their teeth, someone's cat up close, a yoga class going on, someone taking a bomb hit, someone in just a tank and a thong. Sorry, I just read the in parentheses, she says, she looks amazing, but I was still confused. Black screens for silent auctions, someone in a bathtub, and someone doing ASMR cleaning their dirty shoes. That is not what Posh shows are intended for. And the problem that I saw when I read this, of course, it kind of made me laugh. I was also flabbergasted. And then I was just like, wait, hold on. Let's take this from a perspective of both the seller as well as the buyer situation for a moment. Number one, if you are a customer, you've never been into Posh shows, you don't even have a clue what it is. You click on someone's video and they're sitting in a bathtub and they're like, whoa, that was weird. So you jump out of that really quick and you're like, what? Okay, let's just go into the next show and maybe see what we've got. You go into a next show and suddenly you're watching someone taking a bomb hit. You're like, I'm not doing this anymore. I have no idea what Posh shows are, but I ain't interested. You may have just lost a customer. Someone who maybe if they had popped into one of my shows or some of the other people that are really taking Posh shows seriously and trying to sell clothing, that they might have actually found a place that they enjoy and decide to continue to purchase a little more. Posh training is supposed to be in place for us to be able to be trained on how to properly do a show. And two things occur if someone gets access to lives before they've had a proper training. Number one, they get anxious, scared, and uncertain of how they're supposed to do a show because they've never been trained on how to properly do one. And secondly, you have people that just treat it like a free-for-all and do obscure things like this. Now, at this point, I don't know what we need to do as other sellers to make sure that this isn't happening. And I don't know if Poshmark has anything in place to also do the same. I know on other platforms that is absolutely not okay. And you can easily give the platform access to say, hey, you need to check out so-and-so because they're doing improper activity over here. Meanwhile, I had a friend that was on Poshmark the other day that was celebrating her birthday, wanted to pop a bottle on screen, but decided not to because she didn't understand what the policies were. And so you've got on one hand people doing everything that I listed a second ago, and then you've got others that are just uncertain of what the policies are. So if you are someone who perhaps has access to Posh shows right now and you're in that hesitancy of like, how do I do a show? I haven't gotten proper training. I would love to go live to be able to liquidate some of my stuff, but I just don't know what I need to do. I'm going to give you 5 quick tips on what you can do to get prepared for your next show or your very first show. Now, if you have a little bit more time to watch a more in-depth video, I'm going to link it in the cards here, I can't remember where, of a video that I did. It was pretty lengthy and it was from scheduling your Posh show to going live to supplies that I use and then just also proper like etiquette when you are going live. That was like a pretty long video. So get ready to take some notes and enjoy that video. And if you have questions, please leave that either in the comments down below or in that video as well as they come up. So here are the 5 quick tips that I'm going to give you to get prepared for a show. Now the last 2 are going to be the most important ones, so make sure you stay until the very end to get those tips. We're going to go into that right now. So number 1 is have 2 devices ready to go. So as I am like actually filming right now on my YouTube video, or for this YouTube video, I'm actually using my iPad as a place that I have taken notes. Same concept when you are going live on Posh Shows. You can use your phone to go live. Actually, that's really the only way you can do it. And then you want to have either like a computer or a laptop or an iPad or maybe even a second phone. Going live on your phone, I have my phone typically right in between a ring light, and it's really hard for me to see the comment section. Or if I'm far enough away from my phone, again, it's really hard to like keep going back in and like pinning the next item, meanwhile also staying in the chat. So it's nicer when I have my laptop like right beside me and I can glance over, I can see the comment section, I can pin items, I can start auctions without ever feeling like you're here, like while someone is watching you go live. It's just, it flows a little better. It's a little more of a seamless process if you do have the ability to have 2 devices that you're working with. Number 2, having a loaded show. This is going to help with the flow of your show, and it is going to also help with the retention of the video, the live that you are doing. So in this case, I kind of think about making sure I don't have a lot of dead air happening, especially if you're doing this by yourself. It's really hard to list items on the spot. You can absolutely do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but what I am saying is if you want to continue to build an audience, and if you want to not have to try to think about so many things while you're live, think about talking about the items, starting the bids, and then communicating with the audience. If you're trying to juggle those 2 things while at the same time like adding in more items, and it just starts to make you feel scrambled and seen as scrambled on screen. It doesn't hold retention if you're here trying to get the item listed, especially if you're new to listing items in Posh Shows. It might take you a minute to get the flow of how to get items listed. Again, I'm not saying that that's going to be the end all be all. What I am saying is people might jump out of your show because you're taking too long to go from one bid to the next bid. So you don't want to be here for 5 hours talking about 50 pieces. Try to keep as short and concise as you possibly can while still engaging with the audience. Number 3, run all the items that are in your show. I would say don't do a run or pass type show. What does that mean? So I have seen people who go live for the first time, they're new to it, and I think the reality is maybe they're just scared to start a bid. So they'll say, hey, I've got this really cute like Lululemon item. This is a size 14. Tell me if you want me to run this item or pass. Again, dead air has to happen because now people have to comment. But also if people, again, aren't used to that style of show, they don't understand what you're doing, or they jump into the show when you're like this, they haven't heard anything you just said. And so you toss that item and someone's like, oh, wait, what are you doing? Like, are you going to run that item that you just showed? Just push live. I think sometimes people are scared to push start auction because they're afraid of what the item is going to go for. And so that really funnels into the next part of this tip is start the bids at a place that you're okay with the item being let go at. So for example, like, say you've got a Lululemon piece, maybe you wore it once and you're like, man, this is in like still great condition. It's still on the website. Retails for like $54 or something like that. If you feel comfortable letting it go at $20, start the bid at $20. Now, don't in the back of your mind go, I paid $54 for this, so I'm going to start the bid at $54. If someone wanted to pay retail prices for the item, they're going to go to the website that you're purchasing these pieces at as well, because that has guaranteed free shipping or guaranteed like return shipping if it doesn't fit for size. Like, why would they want to go to a third party, buy from someone that's a small business if they're going to be the same prices as retail? Does that make sense? So be willing to start the bids at prices that you're willing to let go of the item at. If someone bids only once and then they purchase the item, that's fine. It's out of your house. It's now into someone's hands that are going to actually use that piece, and you're actually making money. If you don't feel comfortable starting bids low, don't start your shows that way. I have played around with doing $5 starts, $8 starts, $10 starts, $15 starts, $20 starts. It all depends on what the item is Is it new at tags or is it pre-owned? What did I pay into it? Because I do this as reselling. So typically I get items for a discount so that way I can flip items. So trying to keep all of those things in mind. There's no right or wrong answer for this. The only thing that's important here is that you start a bid that you're willing to let the item go at. So if you can do that, then you need to start every single auction. Don't just say, hey, do you want me to run or pass on this item? I've done shows like that and it works. Those kinds of shows do work, but I will tell you, I will make less money on those shows because people didn't get an opportunity to pre-look at my store, or when I went live, they went into my store and there was like, there's nothing in here, loaded in here. And so they might not have enough time to stick around. They can't like anything if my store has not been loaded. So you will, I guarantee, if you do that runner pass style show, you will end up making less money than you could have had you had a fully loaded show. I hope that makes sense. If it does not, comment down below. Presentation. How is your lighting? And by lighting, I mean you do not need a vanity light like I'm using right now. You do not need a ring light. If you have a room that a whole wall has windows, use that room because that will help bring more correct coloring to your items. It doesn't feel blurry. That's another thing. Make sure before you go live that all of the lenses on your camera you've wiped off with like a sunglass cloth. Nothing drives me more crazy than having blurred vision when you are trying to watch a show. It just really doesn't help with the quality of the picture, and then people might miss stains or marks or things that you're trying to show them in the show, and then that could come back and bite you later. Another thing to think about is be aware of what's behind you. So even before I decided to click record today, I noticed that my husband had his coat behind me in the picture. And on one hand, I was like, okay, that's fine, we can keep that here. But I was like, it's gonna really kind of distract the audience to maybe look what's behind me versus looking at me and what I'm talking about. So if you can't have a designated room to go live in, just find a wall in your house that is empty and go live in front of that. If you don't have a clothing rack right away, that's fine. Make sure everything is stacked beside you and maybe use clothespins to number your items so that way when number 1 sells, you know what number 1 is. I hope that makes sense. Again, any other questions, comment down below. But the cleaner, crisp look that you can have towards your shows, the more likely that you're gonna have people to wanna stay and are gonna maintain wanting to come back. Because if your background looks dirty and messy and cluttered and animals are coming in and out of the screen, they might think that that's a representation of how you handle the products that you're trying to sell. So bear that in mind as well. Presentation in the back is a representation of maybe how you take care of your pieces. Number 5. Don't treat this like a TikTok live. Don't be in here like putting on your makeup and talking about the latest gossip on like da-da-da. I understand for lives that number 1, there might be some people that want to go live to train other people. Like maybe I do a video like this, but I'm live on Poshmark where I'm allowing people to ask questions about how to do a successful Posh show and I can answer to them. That's educational. I will give it that. But really, Posh Shows is here for selling items. And I know on other platforms, again, there's more like hangout aspects, but like that's what this platform was created for. It's not like a TikTok live where you're just sitting here doing your makeup or doing your hair and you're chatting with your audience. That's not what this was created for. Likewise, make sure you're fully clothed. Make sure you're not doing activities that you shouldn't be. And you know what I mean? Like, just don't do things that you're not supposed to do for the shows. You need to be presentable. You are supposed to be selling items. And again, the other number 2 aspect that people can be going live is to share other people's items. So maybe you who's watching right now doesn't have access to Posh Shows, but you want some of your items sold. Poshmark did create a way for, again, like Posh Community or Posh Love to bring other people's items into your show while like I'm live. I can have like 10 other sellers items in my show and we can try to sell those items. I don't know how I feel about that one yet, honestly, because I feel like I've had people now jumping into my shows, saying, hey, I have great items, like, can you sell my stuff? I'm like, I'm in the middle of a show right now, like, Like, I get you've got to communicate with people in some way, shape, or fashion that way, but it just really breaks up the way to communicate with my audience and stay on track with the show that I'm doing. So I get why they did that, and I also get the ability to help other people sell their items if they don't have access to this. But again, that's where I'm like, how on earth are people not being trained? Are people being on waiting lists for months trying to get into Posh Shows, and yet now there's some people that have access to shows who never were on the waiting list and who never went into training? Like, how is this happening right now? I mean, I shouldn't expect anything less at this point, but I kind of am hoping for more. Especially now that Navier has purchased Poshmark. We need to hopefully have, I don't know, a better streamlined process than this. The last thing I'm going to say is do this afraid. There's a lot of people that come into my shows and they're like, I'm scared witless. I don't want to hit record or hit live, and I don't want to start any of my bids. I still sweat. Like, majority of the time when you guys see me in a show, I'm wearing black. There is a reason for that, because I sweat like crazy, because I'm perfectly fine. And then the minute I'm about to hit record, I get nervous. I think it is a very natural thing. When you know that you might have 20 to 30 to 50 to 100 people that pop into your show, that's, if you think about that too long, that can freak you out and go, no, I don't want to do this. Do it afraid and act like the person that's on the other end of the screen is your best friend, because that's why Jeff and I have a community of people that continue to come back to every single one of our live shows, is because we treat them like family. They feel like family, and we are family. We care about their well-being. We care about their life. We love to catch up with them in shows, and they love to know what's happening in our world too. Recently, my daughter went in for an emergency surgery. She had appendicitis. We had to cancel one of my shows, and I actually did everything in my power to try to reach out to everyone who watches us on a regular basis to let them know what was going on, because I knew that if I canceled a show, they would know something was up and they were going to ask what's happening. And that's the kind of relationships that you can begin to develop when you are going live. You know, as I said, that this is a selling platform, but while you are selling, you are in a way kind of selling yourself. You can be entertaining, you can be educational, you can be inspirational. I've seen so many times where I've gone into people's lives and people are like, man, I love your vibe. I love your style. Like, I'm definitely coming back because of you, but then you also have really great items. So you are selling both yourself and the pieces that you are going live with. And I honestly, I love this. I feel like this completely changed the style of ways that we were reselling. I love this community aspect that's more intimate than it has ever been in the years that I've been full-time as reselling. And I'm going to continue to do live shows on Poshmark. We at this point are going live from Sunday to Wednesday with a potential pop-up on Friday or Saturday. But right now we're trying to be more intentional with the days that we are going live. And we're also just continuing to build the relationships that we are there. But all that to be said, if Poshmark is allowing for things like this to happen, I think that's really going to lose some of the customers that are on Poshmark. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to get this cleaned up. I'm hoping that with the merger of Poshmark and Navier, they are gonna, is that how you pronounce their name? I really hope I'm not butchering that. Navier buying out Poshmark, I should actually say. I really hope that it's going to have more manpower to Poshmark as well as their shows to help monitor this kinds of stuff, because this needs to get cleaned up. This needs to be cleaned up. So I hope this was educational for you. I hope that this makes you feel a little more at ease if you are going to go live, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.